One thing I don't think is discussed enough in online film critic circles about Netflix is that they do good animated films. Nimona is great, Pinocchio got an Oscar. They get a lot of animation veterans making these films, and I'm excited for Fixed. A good example is the most recent film, K-pop Demon Hunters. The film is about a group of K-pop singers who also hunt and fight demons. There's 3 of them, and if you've seen any film or TV show where there's a group of 3, then you know what you're getting. You've got the leader, the cute one, and the muscle. The group, Huntrix, finds themselves facing off against a rival pop group called the Saja Boys, who, surprise surprise, turn out to be demons, but there seems to be more going on than you think. I quite enjoyed this film. It's a bright and vibrant film with great energetic animation that has a very 2D quality to it. The film is very funny as well, with a lot of gags with the demons, especially one involving a big demon cat, and the popcorn eyes joke is a great and clever gag and always made me laugh whenever it popped up on screen. If anything, this film has made me interested in what co-director Maggie Kang will do next. The music is good as well. While I'm not a K-pop guy, I do think the songs are kind of important in a film about musicians. There's a lot of nods to the whole K-pop scene and its fan culture, which I feel a lot of fans would appreciate, but it kind of went over my head. I mentioned the power trio aspect of the film before, and it does owe a lot of respect to a lot of shows and films of that ilk, like Powerpuff Girls, Totally Spies, and Hi Hi Puffy Yamayumi. Yes, I remember that, I'm a Zoomer. The film feels very much like a continuation in that tradition, and also a great addition in the pantheon. My main complaint is that the film is a little bit bare-boned. Some aspects are well developed, like Rumi's eternal struggle, but others are left out to dry, like the character of Celine, who is established as the group's mentor, but she only shows up sporadically so we don't get a better understanding of her relationship with the group as a whole. And Ken Jeon's role as the manager gets a whole scene during the All Is Lost moment, but we don't get much about his relationship with the group as a whole. The film has a fast pace, but it leaves a lot of things behind. Overall, K-pop Demon Hunters is a fun film. While ultimately some elements do feel underdeveloped and should have been given more focus, I still found this an entertaining film with a lot of energy. I'm excited to see what the team who made this film do in the future. 日本語を話そう。視聴者の皆様、言葉を間違えてしまったことをお詫び申し上げましょう。Mononoke, good TV show, very spooky. It's about a medicine seller who deals with some spooky stuff. Last year they did a movie where he investigates goings on at Anoku, aka the harem of the Shogun. I reviewed the previous movie, and I'm going to show you my previous review here quickly. And if you want to watch that in slow motion, check out here, but also other videos I have on my channel. Please subscribe to get more like it. Anyway, in Mononoke the movie, Chapter 2, Ashes of Rage, the medicine seller is back at the Oku again to deal with some spooky stuff, but this time the focus is on the upper chambers where the higher class of concubine vie for the attention of the shogun, where things get testy as one lady, the lower in social class Fuku, is pregnant, and this has caused much distress in the court, and might be related to a possibly unrelated, but obviously not, fiery death of another concubine, which the medicine seller has to solve. I like this film. While its runtime is a bit shorter, so it doesn't have the slow burn of Phantom in the Rain, nor does it have the rising creepiness as well, I don't mind it, as the film makes up for it in other ways. We get more insight of the inner workings of the Oku, mainly in the upper class areas. Secondary characters who showed up in the previous film get more bigger roles, like Sachiko the God or Lady Boltan. But again, Asa, the main character from the first film, shows up briefly, which is kind of odd considering that she was kind of the main character in the last one, and I was kind of thinking she'd be like the main through-line character, but surprisingly not, which is a shame because I liked her character in the last one. The Shogun is also briefly seen, but he's still not that big of a presence. It's clear when all 3 films will be released that they're going to play well together, and that's where you can also see little story beats set up and will be played off, especially in regards to how things are set up in each film. This film also carries the previous film's themes of what women give up to work in a patriarchal society. The last film was about identity, with most of the concubines throwing away personal belongings to start working at the Oku. This one is about bodily autonomy, so that's fun. If the first film felt like it was expanding on the themes of the Nopapel Bo arc, this one taps into the themes of the Zashiki Rorashari arc, but unlike that one, it doesn't feel muddled. If you've seen the show, you understand what I'm talking about, because I've not given up a lot of details here, because they might give the film's game away. Here we see most of the Shogun's counselors in the film, whose daughters are all concubines, and we see them trying to jostle for power, using their own daughters as pawns in a game. And helping us nail that theme down is that most of the scenes that all seem playing a game of shogi, subtle. In my last film, I compared the theme to Immaculate, the Snowy Nun movie, but that comparison is more appropriate here, along with last year's First Omens, as they also deal with bodily autonomy and how the patriarchy seeks to control women. There seems to be a bigger theme across these films emerging, like permission. The medicine isn't allowed into the Yoku unless he has permission and still uses the pass he earned from the last film, and certain characters are asked to do things if they consent to it, but often that is given under duress. It's a small thing, but I sense it will become a bit clearer when the third film comes out next year. On the animation side, it's as good as the previous film. Still has the psychedelic ukiyo air look, and the titular Mononoke this time around looks cool and makes a good companion to the previous film's one. Also, the editing in this movie is a bit less hyperactive than the last film, but editor Shigeru Nishiyama does some interesting tricks, like how he uses jump cuts to make a close-up on Lady Boltan, or how it cuts to a different character to correct juxtaposition who is often in the same place. Mononoke, the movie, Ashes of Rage, is a good and consistent follow-up to Phantom in the Rain, tackling some interesting themes and painting a clear through line between these films with good animation to boot. I'm excited for the final part that comes out next year. This film, along with its previous entry and the TV show it's based on, are all available on Netflix at the time of recording. For those of you that aren't into your horror movie series, a new Hell House LLC film came out recently on Shudder. For those of you not in the know, the Hell House movies are a series of found footage movies directed by Stephen Cognetti, detailing the haunted goings-on of the Abaddon Hotel. Throughout the first three films, the history of the hotel was revealed, showing its ties to a satanic cult led by a man named Andrew Tully. The series was thought to have seemingly ended with its third film, Lake of Fire, as the Abaddon Hotel was destroyed in that film. But in 2023, Cognetti made a pre-sequel film, Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor. Carmichael Manor detailed a different film crew investigating a different haunted house, whose owners were members of Tully's cult. I binged the film series last year for Hooptober, and I liked them all, especially Carmichael Manor. I liked how Cognetti uses found footage to tell his stories and how he can make some truly scary moments with the bare minimum. This latest entry, and last for Cognetti behind the camera, Hell House LLC Lineage, follows on not just the events of Carmichael Manor, but the previous trilogy as well, as the film focuses on Elizabeth Vermillior's Vanessa Shepherd, a character from the third entry, Lake of Fire, who is still dealing with surviving the events of that film. She gets pulled back into the fray when several people end up mysteriously dying who in some way are involved with Carmichael Manor, and how she is connected to that. The big thing for this latest entry is that it breaks away from its found footage style and goes for a conventional style of filmmaking. It's a big risk. Found footage was an essential part of the series, and transitioning to a different style could end up being a detriment, but Cognetti manages to stick the landing, retaining the series' creepy and tense horror, but also telling a more detailed and involved story than a found footage film would allow. Which brings me to my main, but minor, point of contention with the film. The film is Cognetti's last film as director, and it feels like he's dumping a lot of lore for the overall series on the way out, which isn't bad. In fact, the film finds good balance between backstory and horror, but if you aren't as caught up with the series, you're going to be lost, especially the ending and what it reveals about certain characters left me a little bit confused. But on the other hand, as mentioned before, Cognetti still makes this film scary by doing not a lot. Some of its most frightening and effective scares come from whenever the clown mannequins, the series mascots, are deployed. Cognetti manages to mine some great scary moments with them, aided by this film becoming a regular footage movie, given a different type of presence than what they had in previous films. In previous films, they were scary because you couldn't always keep track of them due to the found footage genre's more intimate and personal style. In this, we see what they are doing most of the time in this film, which makes it just as scary. Cognetti's use of minimalism in this film also helps the film's non-clown frights as well. While there are some flashy and good moments, its best scares are usually the more simpler ones, which give a sense of tension to the proceedings. It's something carried over from the found footage films that managed to survive the move and is used to good effect here. On topic of filming, I like how Cognetti uses flashbacks and how he restages certain scenes from the previous film in a conventional way. It's a small thing, but I like how he does it. Another aspect I liked was Elizabeth Vermillior's performance in this film. Her character isn't too dissimilar from other horror protagonists who survived the last film and now have trauma that you've seen before, but Vermillior sells it rather well here. She gets to do a lot of heavy lifting in this film, and it's a highlight for me to see her do it. I hope to see her in more stuff down the line. I found Hell House LLC Lineage a good entry that does something different from the previous films, even if it is tangled in some backstory business. It manages to be just as scary as the previous entries. The film is currently available on Shudder at the time of this recording. Hello, I'm an internet reviewer / commentator who's talking about Star Wars. I like Star Wars. If there is an entry I don't particularly like, I move on from it and do not make it my entire online persona for the rest of my life. Also, if there's an entry I do like, I also don't make it a new yardstick to judge all previous and future entries with. Anyway, we got another Star Wars Vision anthology. With Volume 3, we see the animated Star Wars anthology return to its anime theme this year, which I do admit I do kind of wish we had more of the international animation studios like we got in Volume 2, but Volume 3 has a solid and interesting set of stories to tell, starting with The Duel, Payback from Kamikaze Dolga and Anima. This story is a sequel to one from Volume 1, one of the three in this collection. Set in a reimagined version of the Star Wars universe, we see our Sith Ronin having to deal with a Jedi Crusader who he maimed previously. This short has a lot of fun playing around in the Kurosawa-inspired sandbox, with a mishmash of aesthetics from different trilogies. It has a lot of fun characters and some interesting ideas with regards to the Jedi, where they come off as religious fanatics, with the Crusader calling out our Ronin as a sinner. Put a pin in that because there's a theme here. The animation is great here, as it was in the original story with some great action scenes. The Song of the Four Wings from Project Studio Q. This is the first CGI animated story of the volume. This was a fun story about a princess in the Rebel Alliance, not that one, who helps rescue a cute alien baby and stop an Imperial mine operation. This was a fun short. The cel-shaded animation looks appealing and there's a fun, over-the-top cartoony feel to it. From the designs to the action beats to a Star Wars-esque magical girl transformation sequence, this was a fun one. The Ninth Jedi, Child of Hope. The second sequel, this one follows up from Studio IG's Ninth Jedi short. Before this volume was released, it was announced that the Ninth Jedi short is getting its own spin-off series, and with that in mind, this short feels like a teaser for the series, but I don't mind that because it's pretty good. It's a bit of a refresher course, remind you of who the characters are and what their respective deals are. This one deals with Lakara, a Jedi in train helping a droid in a derelict starship. It's a good story, gives out more details of the setting, and has a fun droid character called Tito, who is a cool CGI design that meshes well with the 2D elements. The Bounty Hunters. This one from Wit Studio feels like a backdoor pilot to another show, which I totally would watch. This one details the adventures of Sven, a fugitive assassin turned bounty hunter, and her droid assistant IV-A4, doing a job for a rich guy who, surprise surprise, turns out to be not on the up and up. As I mentioned before, this one felt like a backdoor pilot, especially as some elements like Sven's quest to find and kill the Jedi who saved her, and there's some characters mentioned who feel like they might possibly be important down the line. Not that I wouldn't mind. In fact, I would love to see more of the characters in this. I also like the character of Sven and her view on the Jedi. As well, she did save her from slavery as a child. She ended up with a target on her back by the organisation and now wants to kill her saviour, which stood out to me as an interesting aspect, as we don't see a lot of characters, especially those on the good, ostensibly, have a not particular kind view of the Jedi. There's some good action scenes, especially one with droid mech, which was something I didn't know I needed. Overall, the short itself was good, and I definitely sign up for more if they do continue the story. Yukel's Treasure. Oh, this was a sweet one. This story from Cinema Citrus is a nice reader. It's about an orphan and his caretaker, who's a robot teddy bear, sure, why not, who live on Tatooine. But their idyllic life on the Dust Bowl is put under threat when a gang of pirates come to steal something from them. It's a cute little adventure with a lot of heart and comedy. It feels a bit like Skeleton Crew. If you like that show, you'd definitely like this one. Lost One, another one from Cinema Citrus and another sequel. This one's my personal favourite of Volume 1 short, The Village Bride. This details the manic Jedi F having to save a group of refugees from the Empire, but also having to deal with a former master who now works for the Empire. This is a great follow-up. We get a lot more about F. For instance, we learn she's got a robotic leg, and we get some interesting side characters. The animation, like its prequel, is also good. It also has a good colour palette with bright and stark colours being put to good use. The Smuggler. From Studio Trigger comes The Smuggler. This one is a fun little escapade dealing with a smuggler trying to help a fugitive prince escape the Empire's crackdown on his world. There's a lot of excitement to be had with a great chase scene, some interesting characters, and some good world building. It's also here where I noticed one of the big themes of this volume, survival. Each story in this volume have a lot of characters who've survived some horrible experiences, like Rupas, a cute baby whose village was massacred, the numerous Jedi who survived all the 66, the Sith being hunted by the Grand Master's crusade, and the prince in this story who lost his royal family. It's a theme that's always been in Star Wars, and we get to see all the survivors in this story try and move on in some way or another, be it the Ronin trying to make amends, F trying to keep Jedi traditions going, and the prince in this story trying to help free his world from the Empire along with another Order 66 survivor who pledges her alliance to him, reinforcing this theme. The Bird of Paradise. From Polygon Pictures, the second CGI short of the volume comes The Bird of Paradise. In this short, it details a young Jedi Padawan called Nakimi having to deal with losing her sight after a battle with a Sith. The animation in this one is great and gets creative in how it depicts the Padawans in a turmoil and accompanying Force visions, and its overall message of acceptance is appreciated. It's also here where two of the volume's themes crop up, the depiction of Jedi and disability. Throughout the volume, we see the Jedi in an interesting light. For some, like in Payback and Bounty Hunters, they're not seen in a good light, with the Grand Master and the Duel, as mentioned before, being portrayed as a crusading knight who vanquishes enemies regardless who gets in his way, and Sven in her short seeks vengeance against the Jedi who rescued her, but left her to fend for herself. In this short, we see Nakimi having to come to terms with not just her disability, but also her arrogance that led her to this situation. It feels in line with The Last Jedi or The Acolyte, installments that tackled the less admirable aspects of the Jedi Order that we've seen in this film, but this short kind of does it in a more lighter approach. Another theme I noticed was disability. While Star Wars has always had characters who have a disability, it's probably the oldest film franchise with a main character who is an NPC if you think about it. Throughout the volume, we see characters who lost limbs, and he lost her arm in the Payback, and the Grand Master has various injuries requiring a Darth Vader-like procedure to keep him alive. Lino and F have cybernetic prosthetics. It ties itself into this volume's general theme of survival and how to overcome it, which is Akimi's arc in this short, how to accept what was lost. Black. Okay, so this one is both the best short of this volume, but also a bit hard to review. From David Productions and veteran animator Shinya Ohira, a man who's worked on a lot of anime productions, like name anyone you're thinking of, he's probably worked on them in some capacity. Anyway, this short details the experience of a stormtrooper who's losing a battle. That's what I can gather from it, as this one goes in an experimental direction, detailing a psychedelic vision, get it, of a typical Star Wars space battle with great music by Fujiwara Sakura. Its animation is fluid and sketchy, reminiscent of Ohira's previous works like the animated sequence in Kill Bill Volume 1. It just doesn't let up. Everything's changing constantly, with Star Wars iconography constantly being swapped out. But it doesn't feel too hollow, as there's some details to grab onto. In short, it's Star Wars as you've never seen it before. Star Wars Vision's third volume still continues one of the most creative and fun entries in the Star Wars saga, with a bunch of stories that run the gamut from funny to action-packed to just plain weird. It's a great part of the saga that I always like coming back to. Like what you see here? Then please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get more Watch This Space, but also other things such as my short films. Please remember to like and subscribe to the videos you just watched. And also, please check out The Orange Bin, my blog, where I have write-ups of my episodes here, which with links to sources that I mention on the show. Also contains some of my old blog posts if you want to see what else I used to do back in the olden days. So please remember to check out my blog and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel.